Hello again, sales excellencers. I hope at least this is not the first podcast you will see, but even then, that's okay. It will be the shortest. And I promised last time I will try to be more concise. I also know my flaws. I think sometimes topics and details, especially details, are very important. So I say dig deeper because the details make the difference for the method. Um, So sometimes I tend to repeat myself. Feel free to give feedback if you think the same. So today's topic is one of my favorites, and that's sales coaching. Coaching, job coaching, or field coaching by sales leaders. And I've had this conversation many times with many sales leaders, sales managers, and sales directors um, about coaching, and it seems to be a hot topic. And sometimes I'm surprised by what I found, what I hear when we talk about this topic. So what I will do in this topic in this podcast today is discuss first of all how much time should you spend on coaching as a sales leader, what you can expect as results, what is the impact of regular coaching, and what are don'ts and do's. And yeah, well, if you want to have a very short podcast, I can just answer the question right away. The question, of course, how much time should a sales leader spend on job coaching, field coaching, in between 40 and 60%. And if the rest is not of interest for you, like why and how and what are don'ts and do's, etc., feel free to drop off again. You already got the answer. By the way, it would be interesting if you check that mirror again. Reflect on yourself, hold yourself accountable. Are you actually doing in between 40 and 60% of your time on job coaching and field coaching? And if not, where is the time being spent on? Reporting, meetings, what Excel sheets, checking the pipeline? Oh, let's that last one then. Even if you would spend a lot of time analyzing statistics and KPIs in the pipeline, that would actually be great to use as input for your coaching. So what I will do first, I will jump on internet and go to one of my favorite spots to go to when it is about science behind the success of sales, the science behind sales success. One of my favorite places to go to is the Objective Management Group. This company already gathers 30 years of data regarding what makes sales successful. They are in assessments, and the assessments are backed up by science. And it's very interesting to find out what are typical competences which make a salesperson, a sales rep, account manager, sales manager, etc., what makes them successful. So one of the things, aspects, success factors, Objective Management Group, OMG, also investigated research was indeed this topic. Um, how about coaching? How about sales coaching? So I will share my screen. So yes, well, here we have it. My, my favorite website for research regarding the science behind sales success, the Objective Management Group. So here's the article, Objective Management Group, and yeah, my question indeed: how often do sales managers need to coach their teams? We have the table of contents, key takeaways, introduction, how much, which or what sales competencies are affected, impacted. What else does frequent coaching impact, and how often are we sales managers actually doing this? We have a few key takeaways. Coaching that occurs on a daily basis or multiple times per week produces, well, that's interesting, right? Notable gains in a number of areas. These improvements are seen in attitude, responsibility, and motivation, what I call mindset. And for me, mindset is a little bit broader concept than just attitude. Attitude would be one of the aspects in mindset. I also discussed in my previous podcast responsibility and accountability, which are two sides of the same coin. Taking responsibility is just holding yourself accountable, right? And both accountability and responsibility need an open mind for feedback, wherever that feedback is coming from, outside, inside, doesn't matter. Motivation we discussed at length. Of course, motivation is very important. If the motivation is zero, it's very hard to produce results. However, motivation has nothing to do with enthusiasm and also has nothing to do with long-term impact, long-term results. In fact, we discovered in my previous podcast that discipline is a much stronger and a much more sustainable component of sales mindset. Tactical skills, for instance, the sales process I place in the efficiency circle. The better, the more efficient, the more structured you follow the sales process. Of course, this also has an effect on the results. So it's also effectiveness, but at least you will get the same results or at the minimum, the same results with as least effort as possible. And that's all about efficiency. What else? We also saw that, unfortunately, frequent, consistent coaching is the exception, not the rule. All right. So we will explore that also in this article. Introduction. Their clients often ask, I know coaching matters, but how often do I need to coach? And is there such a thing as too much coaching? Okay, these are typical, the same questions I got in my practice. Many times they ask me, is it actually even necessary? Can I overdo it? How much and which way and all of that? But this is where it starts. At least if it starts with the notion, with the realization, actually I should do some coaching. The first step, the first hurdle is already taken. As we saw here up, is that unfortunately consistent coaching is exception, not the rule. So there's still a big chunk of sales managers out there who either convince themselves they don't have the time or even convince themselves it's not necessary, it has no effect. Okay, 30 years of evaluation, and that's okay. Good. So 11,000 salespeople and their managers. So it's a subset of the total research. I believe that OMG has evaluated like 2.5 million salespeople already, and a subset of 11,000 was regarding this topic, coaching. So here's the question: how much coaching is ideal? So what it clearly sees that the sales percentile increases 17%, and that's in this is the breakdown: improvement in sales percentile versus no coaching. So no coaching is put on zero, and improvement is then everything above that, of course. So on demand, 7%, which apparently on demand is better than quarterly, monthly, and bi-weekly even. Why is that? Because the initiative is coming from the salesperson themselves. So they will have a way more open mind. That open-mindedness, the coachability, of course, is much bigger if the initiative is coming from the coachee themselves. So this is why that even if it's irregular or not even frequent, then still there's 7% increase in sales percentile and sales results. Only on a weekly basis will make it a little bit better. And if you do it like it should, daily or at least several times per week, this is the max which you will achieve, at least according to this results. This research. What else can we see here? Salespeople who are coached several times per week or daily show a 34% gain in responsibility versus those who don't receive any coaching at all, and 90% plus in motivation. You see how big the impact is of coaching on responsibility, so coachability, and motivation, hopefully also in discipline, which is much more sustainable long-term mindset contributor. Notable gains also uh, through on-demand coaching for responsibility and motivation. So it's the 34% versus 22% and the 19% versus 10% respectively, responsibility motivation versus the very frequent versus the on demand. So both good way of coaching, but better of course is to do very regular. Managers who regularly coach their salespeople are modeling a clear sense of responsibility commitment. Okay, it's just the explanation. What else does frequent coaching impact? All right, so beyond improvements in the salesperson's attitude, mindset, frequent coaching also creates tangible gains in the salesperson's tactical skills which you can apply immediately. Most notably, 50% greater proficiency in using sales technology. With sales technology, OMG doesn't mean the CRM system or Office or PowerPoint or whatever. What they mean is sales techniques. So technology is just a cluster name of all sales techniques, which is actually part of the skill set. So this means that frequent coaching improves 50% proficiency in applying sales techniques versus who don't receive any coaching, and 60% greater proficiency compared to those who receive on-demand coaching. There we got it again. So additionally, wait before I move on, all this, so if we talk about sales technology, the cluster name of sales techniques, we clearly talk about sales skills, which we find in the domain, in the circle, in the area of effectiveness. So we just saw that there's a huge impact on mindset, called attitude here. There's also a huge impact on effectiveness, a plus of 50% in proficiency in sales techniques, which is directly influencing, impacting effectiveness. What more? Sales process is also improved by 28% versus no coaching and plus 11% versus on-demand coaching. So those are the two they are comparing here. Um, so that means that also the efficiency is highly impacted. And of course, following a strict sales process also will affect the effectiveness, but for sure very much will impact the efficiency, which means that there's no waste in spoiled energy and effort and time. What else do we see? How often? So here we have the 50% coaching versus nearly daily coaching, 50% plus in technical proficiency gains, sales techniques. So what else do we see here? The ideal is an active manager salesperson coaching dynamic. This, however, rarely occurs. So here we just discussed already what is the impact and which competencies are impacted. So how much is the impact and which competencies are impacted. And here we see how much or little these different types of coaching are actually put in practice. So we have never any coachings 8%, quarterly 7%, monthly 9%, bi-weekly it's hard to see. And none of them are the most successful. Earlier we saw that on-demand coaching, when the initiative comes from a coachability mindset from the coachee, this has a higher result than all of these, higher impact than all of these. And the highest impact on everything, mindset, effectiveness, efficiency, everything, had this one. So we still see 20% weekly. That's already good. But those results were more or less the same as on demand. On demand happens 2 times as much as weekly. The highest results you get from daily or at least several times per week coaching. And that's only 10% is doing that. There's more coaching happening than I expected, because I sincerely expected the never category, never any coaching, to be higher. That's at least in my practice, hardly any coaching. Now, maybe quarterly is also hardly any coaching. But still, it's terrible that never is almost the same number as very, very frequent daily or several times per week. So coaching should be a culture thing. Creating a coaching culture. Um, yeah, all right. So here we have it. What else can we say about this? It has a direct impact on results, on positive, open coachability mindset, on motivation, and hopefully on the long run motivation, discipline also. Um, it has uh, almost 30%. Sorry, impact in positive ways, proficiency improvement on the efficiency side, the sales process, and it even has 50% improvement on the on the subset of sales skills, sales techniques in the effectiveness area. Interesting, right? Let's recap a bit. What OMG here shows is uh, not only that sales coaching has impact, but also on which tactical skills, which competencies, which mindset area, which efficiency area, which effectiveness areas, how much it impacts, what is required. So the frequency of coaching in relation to the impact, and which skills and which tactical skills, and also how much or how few times it is done actually by sales leaders. So what does that mean? What I found in my practice as trainer coach, and I've had this discussion with hundreds of sales leaders, and I've trained and coached hundreds of teams. I totally agree with these results. I even think that it's even bigger. I have seen huge improvement after doing two things. First of all, skip the old school training, um, use the new school training. I refer to my other podcast about return on investment on sales training. Is your sales training dollar investment wasted? Old school training, once a year, 2 days in a hotel, 90% is forgotten after half a year, 80% already after a month, 80% of whatever is discussed and trained and practiced and presented during the training is forgotten after a month, 80, 90% after half a year, 95% after a year. Wasted. There are better ways of doing that, the new school way. Check that video if you want to find out. Coaching is a very important part of bridging the gap between whatever new knowledge or skills are gained in whatever kind of session, online, offline, doesn't matter, between acquiring new knowledge and techniques and skills and application in practice. If you are in a meeting as a sales rep, you cannot really observe yourself because your brain, you don't have two brains. If you're really, really good trained in coaching yourself and observing yourself, you can do it. You can split your brain into a participating part and observing part, but still it's difficult. It's better to have a second person to use the 4I principle or ICE principle, and to have a second person doing observing and then doing the feedback afterwards. So this is why coaching improves the results so much. And if you are um, a sales leader, and I'm very curious what is happening in your brain right now. If I say you should spend 40 to 60% of your time, of your weekly 40 hours, if you work 40 hours, that's 20 hours on coaching at least. If you don't do that, what is your brain telling you? What excuses do come up to justify that you're not doing it? And I cannot imagine that you're surprised by the results. That if that would be the case, we have even a bigger problem. If you are surprised by the impact of an increase of 20 up to 50% in results as a result of coaching, if you're surprised by that impact, I'm really asking myself, what are you doing there? So, and if you're not surprised, then the question, of course, is why are you not doing it? What else is more important than increasing the results of your sales team by helping them become better in the mindset area, in the efficiency area, and in the effectiveness area? What else? What else is more important? Politics, internal meetings, all kind of improvement projects, IT projects, product projects. Yes, of course, all of those things are on your desk. I understand it. And of course, you still have the reporting and the forecasting and the pipeline, all of that. I understand it. I've been there. But still, I try, let's really realize this. All of that does not bring results. Direct improvement, direct impact on results comes mainly from coaching. Not even that training and that fantastic trainer you hire once a year, because yeah, 80 up till 95% is forgotten anyway. So the coaching really brings the results. And at the end of the year, your sales reps are evaluated on their individual results. You are evaluated on the overall results of your team. There's no such thing more important than that. So try, please, to minimize as much as possible all those very important responsibilities and tasks you have, which don't bring direct results. So I promised also don'ts and do's. Yeah, normally it's do's and don'ts, but I start with the don'ts. I like to end positive. The don'ts. Imagine indeed that you see the light. And you knew it already, you had seen that light before, but now think, yeah, he's right, I should do that. Let's try to minimize all those political stuff and reporting stuff, and let's spend time on coaching. It's not easy. And there are many common, often made mistakes. And for instance, um, let me show you how it's done. The, let me show you how it's done mistake. To put yourself in that meeting with a prospect as the perfect example. There are two reasons why it's not a good idea. First of all, you can fail. If you do it wrong, you lose all credibility. The second thing is they don't learn anything by watching. They don't know what you're doing. If I take you to a skating rink and I will show you how ice speed skating is done, it's an incredible difficult technique to learn and to master. If I put you on a bench on the side of the skating ring and I show you how it's done, you will learn nothing. Maybe I gain some respect or so. It's good for my ego, but you will learn nothing. The only way um, of learning is by doing. And in sales, it's the same thing. So don't take over. Forget that ego and don't show them how to done. It doesn't work. It doesn't bring anything. Just sit down and observe and make notes. Second mistake, overdo it. And yes, I said earlier, there's no such thing as too much coaching, but there is a thing like spray and pray. Spray and pray. If you write down all the things where you think is your team member can improve, let's say it's 16 points, and then you throw up all those 16 points in that feedback meeting afterward, the only thing what happens is you completely break down the self-confidence. And 14 out of the 16 points they don't even remember. The brain just shuts down. Don't overdo it. Don't try to put all your experience and all your expertise and all your knowledge in that one feedback message. Doesn't work. It has only adverse effect. Then better don't do it. Then don't coach. If you coach, you need to do it right. Take 1 point. Only one improvement point per coaching day. Not even per coaching after a meeting with a prospect. No, only one at the end of the day. So that's you need to dose it. If that 16 points are there, those improvement points, write them down and choose 1 week per improvement point. Every week gets a theme, a central theme, a focus point. Then the question, of course, is how to get that point across is not by telling. We know from sales, telling is not selling. How do we sell? We ask a lot of open questions. We find the pains, the gains, and the needs, and even the solution. We try to let the prospect think of the solution as much as possible themselves because that will hold the most credibility. Anything what is said by somebody else versus what you think of yourself, that latter will always be more believed and better remembered. So you only have to add that part what is missing. It's the same as sales. Telling is not training, training is not telling, coaching is not telling. Coaching is asking the same really good question. So 80%, first of all, asking really good questions so the problem is understood well and the implications of that problem. Then second is that 80% of that solution, that insight what was missing is gained, is thought of, is created, is inspired by the coachee themselves. You only have to add that 20% which is missing. So don't overdo it. Don't take over. Don't overdo it. 1 point per coaching day, and let them think of it themselves. The do's, of course, are the opposite of the don'ts. So shut up, sit down, listen, write down notes, make a plan, choose one improvement point per week, and ask really, really good questions during your coaching session. Forget about the sandwich technique. That's 80s manipulative tricks. In a toxic, yeah, maybe then. But in a healthy relation between the coach and the coachee, you don't need tricks. You just need techniques are fine. And asking really good open questions, that's a technique, but it has a win-win agenda behind it. Anything manipulative doesn't have a win-win. Forget about the sandwich. Besides, if you only do one improvement point per coaching session, per coaching day, you don't need the sandwich technique. You can see the sandwich technique coming from miles. Here, what I find really good about you is your enthusiasm. But, and then you already know it. Oh, there we go. Forget it. No sandwich, please. So, yes, asking open questions step by step, helping them in that thought process, in that insight gaining process, which helps your coachee to come there where you want him to arrive in that thought process. And you only have to add the 20% which he skipped. So it's called Socratic coaching, asking a structured way of open questions. It's very similar to the spin technique you use in the discovery meeting with your prospects. Um, if you want to know more about how to coach, in the description you will find my email address. If you have my LinkedIn profile, I have coached the coach hundreds of times. Once you get it, it's not super difficult. And it will bring indeed amazing results. So yeah, I promised you short podcast this time. Very simple. Let's start with the beginning. How important is coaching for you as a sales leader towards your team? Super important. There's no other thing as important as that in your responsibility and your role as a sales leader. There's really nothing else. If you already knew that, my question is, why didn't you do it? And if you didn't notice, how on earth is it possible you didn't notice? Second thing, of course, is what kind of impact does it have besides only in results? Apparently between 20 and 50%. But what areas does the improvement take place? Well, as all areas in mindset, especially on responsibility, being able to be held accountable, and in the efficiency area in following the sales process, and in the effectiveness area in applying technical skills. So everything, all important. Then the last part of this podcast was the don'ts and the do's. I wish you good luck with applying a lot of job and field coaching, and I will see you at the next podcast. And I say, bella ciao.